Good morning. Is anyone there?
Good morning. Good morning. This is Andrew Lofters with the coordinator.
Hey, Andrew.
And who's this on the phone?
Rolando from Kingsville.
Good morning, Rolando. Glad you're with us. We'll be starting shortly.
Good morning. This is Gwen Weatherford from Texas Women's University.
Glenn, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. This is Julie DeLello from the University of Texas at Tyler.
Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. This is Janita Oliveras from the University of Texas at Tyler.
Good morning. Welcome. Sorry, for the last one that said the name, could you say your name once more?
Janita Oliveras.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pam Morgan, Midwestern State University.
Morning, Pam. Glad to have you with us. Are there any others on the phone line? All right, we'll start shortly. We're good? All right, we're ready to go.
If you would also silence your phones, those of you in the room, just get that. We good?
Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first LTAC meeting of the year. And thank you all for being here, and those of you on the phone, thank you for joining us. We have a number of new members with us today, so we will go ahead and start with introductions. And I'll start, and I'll just work my way. We'll go to the right around, and then we'll go on to the phone. So I'm Justin Louder, and I'm the Associate Vice Provost for e-learning at Texas Tech University, and I serve as chair of LTAC.
Andrew Lofters, Program Director with Academic Quality and Workforce.
Jacqueline Mock, Vice President for Academic Faculty and Student Affairs, University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio.
Mary Gentry, the Kinesiology Program Director at St. Philip's College.
Yun Wan, I'm STEM Division Chair and Professor of Computer Information System from University of Houston, Victoria.
Erin Warham from Concordia University, Instructional Designer in the Department of Digital and Online Learning.
Michelle Giles, Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator. Do I need to start over? Okay. Michelle Giles, Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator for Instructional Design and Technology, University of Houston, Clear Lake.
Good morning, Carlos Morales, Campus President for TCC Connect Campus at Tarrant County College.
Good morning, Tim Snyder, Dean for the Online College, Houston Community College.
I'm Linda Murphy. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning with Technology at Texas Women's University.
I'm Ken Craver, Director of Distance Education at Tyler Junior College.
My name is Wes Hickey. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Psychology at the University of Texas at Tyler.
Robert Green, Associate Vice Chancellor, Lone Star College.
Mark Garcia, Dean of Strategic Initiatives at Collin College. Daniel Gonzalez Jr., Director of Distance Education at Alvin Community College.
Joyce Langenegger, Executive Director for Academic Success at Blinn College.
Patrick Plush, Executive Director of Learning Technologies at the University of North Texas.
Then any LTAC members that have dialed in on the phone, if you would please introduce yourself and your institution.
This is Vicki Freeman. I'm UTMB Galveston. Pam Morgan, Academic Outreach and Distance Education, Midwestern State University.
This is Julie DeLello. I'm the Associate Professor and Director for the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Texas at Tyler.
Yeah, this is Rolando Garza, Interim Director for Distance Learning and Instructional Technology, Texas A&M University, Kingsville.
Great. And are there any other guests that dialed in that have not introduced themselves yet? I heard a beep. Okay. Well, once again, thank you all for being here and joining us today. We will get started. We do have a quorum looking around the room and those on the phone. So I thank you once again. Before we get to the formal agenda, this is the first meeting of the LTAC group before the very tragic passing of our friend and colleague, Dr. Rex Peebles. And we all knew Dr. Peebles. He spoke with our group at each meeting. We've all worked with him. I would like to take just a moment of silence to remember Dr. Peebles before we get started. Thank you very much. So our first item on the agenda is the consideration of summary notes from the August 9th, 2019 meeting. Those were emailed out to you. Christina emailed those out about a week and a half ago. So hopefully you had a chance to review them. And I'll ask that you review and I'll call for any comments or edits.
Dr. Louder, I move to approve.
Dr. Mock moves to approve. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the summary notes as emailed for our August meeting. All those in favor of approving as emailed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. Summary notes stand as emailed. Now moving on to item 3. Which is the discussion of Texas Women's University's adherence to THECB distance education policy and the delivery of its existing Doctor of Philosophy PhD degree with a program in health studies. I will turn it over to Dr. Mock as the chair of the doctoral proposal subcommittee to discuss this degree.
Thank you, Dr. Louder. Texas Women's University has an existing PhD in health studies, and they are seeking approval from LTAC to include a model that is a hybrid delivery model that will better serve the students and potential students for this program. We have several guests from Texas Women's University available on the line, and so if I may start with Dr. Weatherford, if you would introduce yourself to the committee as well as other colleagues from Texas Women's University, please go ahead.
Yes, good morning. My name is Gwen Weatherford. I'm the Associate Director for the School of Health Promotion and Kinesiology. I'm Jennifer Martin. I'm the Executive Vice Provost.
And George King, I'm the Director of the School of Health Promotion and Kinesiology.
Our colleagues from TWU, we are having a little difficulty hearing you. If you could get a little closer to the mic when you're speaking, that would help us. The last individual that introduced himself, would give us the department you're with again?
Yes, we are the School of Health Promotion and Kinesiology.
Thank you.
Perfect. Dr. Martin and Dr. Weatherford, if you would be so kind as perhaps to just provide a few remarks to contextualize your request for the change on behalf of the other members of the LTAC. If you just take a few minutes to do that, we invite you to do so.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is Gwen talking. And really, the change for this delivery is to meet the demands of our students. They all are working professionals, so we believe offering the variety of face-to-face, hybrid, and online components within the program delivery will better meet their needs so that they can live, work, and further their education all at the same time. There are a few points that I do want to iterate just in terms of why we believe that we can successfully do this. And the first of those is that TWU is exceptionally positioned to offer and support distance programs. And that includes resources and support for students as well as faculty and staff through our offices of teaching and learning with technology, the Center for Faculty Excellence, our university libraries, as well as we have a Right Site Center for students, as well as a care office. Secondly, we do believe that our faculty are also prepared to offer this via distance education, considering their experience in currently delivering our bachelor's and master's degree in distance formats. And we believe that through their experience and just our high expectations that we can maintain high expectations for student learnings while delivering in this format. And then lastly, we believe we have put together a strong plan for implementation that supports the ongoing development not just of the faculty, but the onboarding, orientation, establishment, and support of peer groups and faculty-student mentoring before they begin as well as throughout the program. And we deeply value the care of our students and offering this program in a format that is going to meet their needs as well as prepare them to be leaders within the field.
Thank you. I want to compliment the university and the program for presenting a clear outline in your proposal. For those of you who have copies, it's on page 6 of the proposal, to let us know which classes within your program are offered online, which ones are hybrid, and which ones are face-to-face or a combination of the variety of delivery methodology. So that just helped us read through the proposal. I invite my other committee members to make comments at this time if they have any. Dr. Lofters, hearing no other comment from the LTAC, I move it to you for more from the subcommittee, more formal discussion to the full LTAC.
Thank you, Dr. Mock. Are there any questions from the LTAC committee? So I have a question just because I haven't used it before. Can you talk to me about the difference between the PhD Google Classroom and Canvas? How you're using both of those?
Sure. So this is Gwen Weatherford again. The Canvas is our learning management system that we formally use through our courses. So we do that, one, through our courses, but we also do have a Canvas collaborative space, which is essentially our online meeting platform for students, and which is where we post any, forms, announcements, upcoming deadlines, just things for them to be aware of. But we also, within that collaborative space, have created opportunities for them to chat amongst themselves, so the peer groups, as when that's supported by the faculty and our graduate advisor. So we have Canvas through the courses. We have the Canvas collaborative space that we use outside of courses. And then the Google Classroom is, it is really by professor, if you will, or by instructor. So not all of them use it, but some of them like to use that platform as well to exchange documents. There are a few options, I guess kind of features of Google Classroom that are not currently offered in Canvas, and so it's a pairing. It's not one that one is used in lieu of the other, but they're used collaboratively together.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. I've lost my agenda. We
I'd
will
like to
move.
make a comment, please.
Oh, please.
Since I am from Texas Women's University, with the minutes, please reflect that I am recusing myself from any vote on this proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Okay. Hearing no other comments, we will move to item 4, consideration of recommendation regarding Texas Women's University's adherence to THECB distance education policy, subject to THECB review and analysis, the delivery of its existing Doctor of Philosophy PhD degree with a program in health studies. And Dr. Mock, it's my understanding that this is coming to the committee with a recommendation from your subcommittee to approve
Correct.
the delivery.
And may I point out that Dr. Murphy did recuse herself from the subcommittee conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's coming to the full committee from a committee, so I don't need a motion, but I do need a second, right? So do I have a second to approve the proposed PhD in health studies from TWU?
This is Vicki. I'll second.
Is that Vicki? Okay.
Yes.
So Vicki seconds. So then we have a motion from a committee and a second. All those in favor of approving this proposal as submitted, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Any abstentions? Hearing none, the TWU PhD in Health Studies is approved by LTAC, and it will now move forward to.
This one goes to.
Okay.
Commissioner.
So our colleagues from TWU, thank you for joining us today. You are welcome to stay on the line and listen to the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you don't want to.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on, item 5 is the discussion of the University of Texas at Tyler's adherence to THECB distance ed policy and the online delivery of a proposed Doctor of Education, EDD degree with a program in school improvement. Once again, turn it to Dr. Mock.
Thank you, Dr. Louder. The University of Texas at Tyler is proposing a new professional practice doctorate program in EDD with emphasis in school improvement, which is aimed at addressing the improvement of educational organizations through a deep understanding of change theory, school improvement frameworks, and the impact of diversity has on the function of educational institutions and structures. The thrust of the proposal that was presented to the LTAC Doctoral Education Subcommittee was to address particular needs from the Tyler and the region that university serves, and is designed to be an online model. Dr. Hickey is here, and I invite you to make a short, brief presentation, just some of the highlights to point out to LTAC. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The program we are proposing here is online. Our focal points.
Dr. Hickey, would you mind moving the microphone closer to you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The proposal we're looking at right now is an online proposal designed to address the needs of schools as we see it now. So we have school improvement. We're one of the few in the nation that focuses on this improvement science and trying to address the cultural and linguistically diverse student bodies that we deal with, as well as the factors that come with low SES schools and that type of thing. So it really fits really well with the rural schools in our area. The online component also allows us to have that impact more diverse ways, and as I believe even TWU said before, is we have working professionals, and so the online program also benefits that. We have a strong background in our programs right now of addressing needs in an online manner. Our educator preparation programs at the graduate level are all online. We have instructional designers at the university. We have a dedicated individual within the College of Education Psychology to be able to work with faculty to make sure that they are developing their courses in a way that have a high impact. We look for kind of a high-tech, high-touch type thing, so we want to make sure that we connect strongly with our students in that particular manner. So we believe we have a strong and high capacity to be able to address the needs of an online program.
Thank you, Dr. Hickey. I just wanted to make sure I am understanding the proposal correctly. As presented, it is an online proposal, but you do have several touch points that will be face-to-face so that it is not 100% online. That is correct.
That is correct. We have summer seminars that they will be coming on campus.
Excellent, thank you. I invite other members of our doctoral subcommittee to make any comments, if they have any at this time. Hearing none, Dr. Louder, I invite other members of the full LTAC to offer any comments or questions to University of Texas at Tyler if they have any questions about the proposal. Hearing none, Dr. Louder, on behalf of the LTAC Doctoral Education Subcommittee, we present a motion to approve the proposal as presented by University of Texas at Tyler.
Thank you, Dr. Mock. So we will move to item 6, the consideration of recommendation regarding the University of Texas at Tyler's adherence to THECB delivery a distance education policy subject to THECB review and analysis in the online delivery of a proposed Doctor of Education degree with a program in school improvement. This is coming before the full LTAC from the doctoral subcommittee with the recommendation to approve. So it's a motion, but I do need a second.
This is Vicki. I'll second this one too.
Okay, Vicki. That is a second. So all those in favor of approving the EDD and school improvement from the University of Texas at Tyler, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Any abstention? Okay. For our colleagues from UT Tyler, the program is approved by LTAC and it will now move on to the Assistant Commissioner. This one will not.
This is a new program, correct? So therefore, this is going to continue on with review and then be submitted to the board for final approval.
Okay. So coordinating board staff will be in touch on next steps, and we thank you for joining us today. And those of you on the phone, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hickey.
You're welcome to stay, Dr. Hickey, but you don't have to. So I have been informed that due to the water issue, the commissioner will be closing the agency. But in talking to Andrew, we are going to try to get through at least lunch because there are a number of items we do need to discuss as part of that. And then at our lunch break, we can discuss either coming back after the agency opens back up later this afternoon or standing adjourned. Is that correct?
Agency is not going to be opening back up later. Just
okay.
My suggestion was, and this is up to the committee, since we do have the lunches already coming for you and so forth, and you've already paid your money, they should be here within an hour, around that time. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and we could talk about THECB updates, and then we can talk about our discussion of hybrid programs. I have just some basic overview, high-level data that you can look at to start that discussion. And then once lunch comes, I think do we have to adjourn before lunch or do we have to adjourn after lunch? It's up to the chair? Up to the chair.
Okay.
I would, at that time, since there's not going to be any other water in here, for anyone, period. I think we just adjourn at that time. That'd be my suggestion.
Okay, so we will continue forward and move through the next few items on our agenda. Item 7 are THECB updates, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Lofters.
Thank you, Dr. Lauder. We're going to talk about the open educational resources. I did have my colleague, Dr. Kyla Torrey. She gave me a brief PowerPoint presentation about what's going on with the OER. The first one she started with was the OER legislation. And the reason she's not here, she's at an OER meeting right now in Denver. So she's taking care of this right now. First one we have is in the next slide. Senate Bill 810 passed in 2017 during the 85th legislative session. And basically, that one there required that the coordinating board start the OER grant program and have a feasibility study for the OER program to see if we have the ability to house all these open educational resources at some point here in the state. If not in the coordinating board, wherever it was, that's what was first brought out in the legislation in 2017. And it basically was for the OER grant program for the most part. That's right. So the first one, 810, is OER grant program. The next one, House Bill 3652, in the 86th legislature, also passed that addressed specifically the state repository and where we're going to house these OER, open educational resources. In the last legislative session for House Bill 3652, they were appropriated $250,000 for the biennium for the state repository. If we go specifically to SB 810, Open Educational Resources Grant Program, this was encouraged to establish institutions to adapt and modify curriculum that will be used solely for open educational, through open educational resources. At the beginning, there was a smaller amount. It was $5,000 that were going to be given for applications directly to faculty for them to modify and develop open educational resources to be taught on their campus. You were going to get $5,000 for one and $2,000 for more. Or sorry, $10,000 for more. But it seems that there was some extra funding that was available, so they were able to increase that amount to a maximum of $8,000 for applications for one created program that was OER, and a maximum of $6,000 for more than one. 16,000 for more than one. And I asked Kyle, I said, so basically, if you did 4 programs, you would still get 16,000 because it was more than one. So she said that the applicants who filed for multiple courses, they only did up to 2. So they just 2 courses for the 16,000. The grants were distributed directly to faculty, and the faculty were supposed to teach those programs at least one time within a certain period in order to get the remaining funds. So we get half of it up front, and then the other half they would get once the course had been taught. In the 86th legislature, it appropriated $212,049, and that's what she said, that was an interesting amount, $212,049 for FY 2021 for additional grants. There will be a request for grants going out in January of 2020. Once again, it'll be going to the institutions for faculty. Yes, Dr. Mott?
Is that each year of the biennium, or is that then 106,000?
What I'm assuming, that's for the entire biennium, so 106,000
Thank you.
and some change for each year of the biennium.
25.50, $106, $25.50.
Yes, that's right. That's right. 24.50. And then any new grant requests and applications, like I said, will be put out in January of 2020. We have more information on the website. If you go to the OER GP website, you're able to see what's going on here at the coordinating board for the OER. The THECB grant opportunities, if you look on those, you'll be able to see which institutions and what areas were awarded grants. And I think that was presented to the LTAC once before by Dr. Torre as far as which institutions and which programs were being offered, or which courses which were being offered grants. And she also mentioned that if you wanted updates on OER grants and whatever else is coming on through the coordinating board, there is a feature on our website at the bottom that has a little envelope. It almost looks like an Outlook envelope. If you click on it, you can sign up for OER update. You can sign up for updates, and then you can select if you want to have OER sent to you to tell you what the new, any new developments with OER. The next slide, the OER grant program tentative calendar events. The RFA, as I said, will be published in January 2020. That's for these new set of grant programs. The application deadline will be March of 2020, and the grant awards will be announced in June of 2020. The grant period ends in August 31st of 2023. Anything else that she said there? Good. Good, all right. Next one is for the state repository, HB 3652 that passed in this last biennium, which gave funding to establish the state repository.
Dr. Lofters, before you go on to that, was there anything in the first review of the grant process that gave insight in terms of either changing the request for approval or modifying the process? Were there any notes related to that, or are they just keeping the same criteria as the last cycle?
As far as I'm concerned, as far as I understand, she wasn't telling me there was anything different from
Okay.
that she brought up to me when we went over this PowerPoint.
All right, thank you.
The THECB will, for the repository, the THECB will contract with existing educational resource repository to develop and maintain a web portal for OER. Inside the feasibility study report that we talked about some time ago, it mentioned in there two specific ones, the OER Commons, as well as the Texas Digital Library as a good example of examples of what types of organizations that we might want to partner with to set up a repository. And they gave estimates on how much it would cost to do OER repository through those two different organizations. The portal will be searchable by course, but, and I'm going to go back one more. Now that we're going out to contract with new ones, it's not just them. Other people can, other organizations can apply for an RFA to be the housing entity for this repository. But like I said, the OER Commons and the Texas Digital Library was mentioned in this study. The portal will be searchable by course and learning outcome, program, field of study, marketable skills, college readiness, and other topics as determined by the THECB. This is all to be completed, the repository, by September 1st of 2020, and that's what it has as in statute. And that's all we talked about then. I'm not sure how that's going to progress by that in that time period. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the requests for contract with these other other organizations. The request for offer for the state OER repository were posted on the Electronic State Business Daily and on the THEB website soon. So it's steadily moving on with the OER progress. This is what she gave me so far. I think that's the end of the PowerPoint. It does give you the grant program website, the THCB grant program website, as well as Dr. Torrey's contact information if you have any specific questions you want for OER. And if you want to give me a question that I can take back to her, I can, and I can answer back to you.
Do you know, for the OER repository, did it specify, so are these organizations going to house and run it, or are they just going to house it and then the THCB is going to be responsible for uploading and maintaining documents? So will there be like an approval process with the coordinating board to put stuff on there and the manage of it, or is it just basically going to this third party that's going to oversee it and
Dr. Groman might have insight on that.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to determine. It's going to depend on what kind of offer we get. Obviously, the more services we expect from the external organization, the more it would cost. So we'll have to find some happy medium between, you know, what our financial options are and what we'd like to see in terms of who's going to do the day-to-day operations of it.
So the bill didn't specify, it just said create a repository.
That's correct. The bill was very specific about how searchable it should be and what factors it should be searchable by, but then in other areas it was completely left up to us as, you know, the agency carrying this out.
Any other questions about the OER grant program?
Yes. Can you talk, and maybe you mentioned this, how many OERs you expect to have in the repository? And then I have a follow-up.
I don't know. We didn't really even discuss how many they expect to have. I just know that they have, as far as like the courses, we have a listing of them, but as far as the repository, I think it's still in the formative stage, and we're not quite sure. Dr. Gorman, am I?
And it's really hard to say. Obviously, we want to have the OER materials related to the grant, right? So all of those should end up in here. But then beyond that, it's going to depend upon faculty and institutions and how many of OER materials they choose to create. And so it's also hard to predict, you know, whether the OER grant, how far in the future that will continue. We've got 2 years of funding, but, you know, it's going to be up to the next legislature to see if we get any further grant funding beyond that.
I see. And then once in the repository, any strategies to market that and, you know, let institutions know of the existence?
Well, let's see. I don't think we've got quite that far yet. I mean, of course, we'll use our own kind of standard methods of using our website and sending out a memorandum and let institutions know that the OER repository is now up and available, and try to give some indication through those means. But we'd have to look at the grant, for instance, look at the monies we've received and determine, okay, is it an appropriate use of the money now to market? Because you know how specific legislation can be. We have to determine if that's an allowable use.
Thank you.
And I've been informed that the link for the OER GP is not accessing the site right now, so what I'll do is I will provide that to that link to you. Yes.
So I just have a follow-up question for Dr. Morales. So is part of your question embedded in, once you make that open education resource available, it's available not only to the constituent community, let's say Clear Lake, there might be a course, but is part of that kind of either accountability or furthering that you would have students or faculty, more so faculty outside of that immediate community saying, look, there's a wonderful open education resource, and we want to track it in that component part, because that might be a defining issue related to the solicitation for a contract. Right, so it's one, if you're looking at your local audience and you're building your inventory and your database to take a look at how many within your local constituency you serve. If you're looking outside the institution, there might be some different mechanisms in terms of advertising and making it available in terms of what you want to count and how you want to count it. Was that your point, Dr. Morales, or did I just drift into another universe?
No, this is good too, because, at times, we have the best kept secret in town type of thing, okay? But, with the internet, there's no limitation. So as you stated, other constituents from beyond the state may come across this resource. So, how we will make sure that our constituents not only are aware, but, maximize the utilization with the intent of what it was developed, which is to reduce the cost of education. So, yeah.
And then that's a good point. So once we have it up and running, maybe members of this group, maybe this committee might want to make some suggestions to we board staff about cost-efficient ways that we could advertise and let people in the field know that this repository is available, that there's materials there, and that they're welcome to use the materials or to add to the materials that are there.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll continue with coordinated board updates.
And the next update we have is regarding the distance education component of the graduate program review. For the members that have been here for a little while, we had a presentation in the past about a recommendation that was made in a report that was given by RAND to the coordinating board about managing the growth of graduate education. And one of the concerns or recommendations, one of the concerns they had was the quality of online master's degrees. I'm not sure if y'all remember this one. And whether or not the expansion of master's degree education online was affecting its quality as far as the program is concerned and its delivery. So we spoke with some of our leadership and we talked about this, and we made a recommendation to leadership, or at least the committee made a recommendation to leadership, that instead of the LTAC having a more stringent policy for reviewing the quality of an online program at the master's degree level, it'd be better to look at it at the graduate program degree, graduate program review level. So at the end of there's a certain part of statute that requires that graduate programs be reviewed every 10 years, is that correct? Every 10 years. And when we go through, we looked at all the graduate programs, and inside that we look at the different components of a graduate program to see if the quality is meeting what we expect as the coordinating board. So what we did is we worked together with Dr. Goldman, who's with the graduate program, Graduate Education Advisory Committee, as well as Dr. Nalos, Jen Nalos, and we worked together about what can we do in order to address the quality of a master's degree program in the graduate program review. So therefore, we formulated a way of the program review requiring that institutions inside their study, that they have to also address the online component as it pertains to the principles of good practice that we have established here at the coordinating board that gives and for those who are new members, the coordinating board has what we call the principles of good practice for courses and programs delivered at a distance. I think that's the best way I can remember it. I think it was even longer than that. Yes, it's longer than that. Which we had worked over for the past 4 years to update. It first started with at least 4, I would say maybe 5. And it started off with, I want to say the Distance Education Advisory Committee, and they used standards from SACS and standards from WICHE in order to compile a list of standards and criteria that institutions should use in developing and creating distance ed programs, and how they can create online programs that be developed at high quality. We've worked on that for quite some time, and now we just got it approved at the last board meeting, which is now adopted, and we'll be using that, and we'll be putting it into we have a form that's called the Certification Form for Electronic Delivered Programs, where the institutions certify that they're adhering to these standards. So now what we're doing with the graduate program review process, we're now linking that back to the pre-GP, so the institutions know that they need to follow these when they're doing graduate program reviews, and they need to review these in their review process of their graduate program. If I said that relatively well, Dr. Goldman?
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to be bringing a rule change to, recommending a rule change to the board that will formalize this. We're just now at the end of our first 7-year cycle of graduate program review. It actually ended at the end of August. We're now doing some cleanup, and institutions are getting in those final program reviews from this cycle. We're also now getting ready to set up the new cycle for cycle 2. That'll be a 10-year review cycle. And as part of that, we thought it would be a really good idea to address the online component. There's a lot of master's programs that either are completely online or they have an online component to them, even if they've been existing as a face-to-face program for a while. And we also thought it just made a lot of sense to use this already existing set of criteria pertaining to online programs and apply this in the graduate program review context. So the rule is essentially just going to add another criteria to the review of graduate programs, which is going to be that if the program is hybrid, online, or 100% online, then the review should include consideration of the principles of good practice.
And that would be just at any degree level, right? So master's or doctoral level, since we do graduate program reviews for both, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So that was just an update of where we are as far as the graduate program review process, and then incorporating principles of good practice and distance ed criteria inside that review process. That was it. I know you had Sarah on there for a talk.
Yes, so it is not, I know people don't like it when you start making changes to a posted agenda. But one thing that was left off the THECB updates section was, which we've had at previous meetings, was a discussion on NC Sarah. I think the original thought was we didn't have anything, but there has been some movement in the last several days, and I'm going to put Jessica on the spot and ask her if she wouldn't mind telling us what has happened recently, if you've got any information on that. Good morning. Yes, that just came out this week, actually, or yesterday maybe. You probably haven't even, I don't know if you've looked at them.
There. Yeah, actually, I haven't had a chance to look over those yet, but I do know that they have passed and they are effective, so.
Yeah, I believe it's this summer, July 1, 2020.
Yep.
So for the committee, Department of Ed did release the federal standardization rules. They came out, I think, yesterday, and there was a blog post posted today. And so it will probably be good, and we can discuss it more at a future meeting to go with that. The other thing, and Andrew just briefly mentioned it, but because we're not going to be able to do some of the afternoon things, I wanted to talk again about PGP, and I'm not sure if Michelle has dialed in. She was going to, but this was a lot of work over the last couple of years, and it did pass full board, and so. Does that become effective immediately or effective within the next academic year? I don't remember how we wrote the agenda item.
So when we wrote it, once it's passed by the board, now we've adopted it.
Okay.
So I'm going to change the PGP and post the new ones up onto the website that will say adopted in October 2019 going forward. Now, we were going to discuss in the PGP work group I guess there's a new definition. Well, when I talked with Patrick, it might not have been the PGP, we might have looked at another one, but I won't bring it up now. But the PGP, we just need to make sure that we post it. And then the question from Dr. Singh that was posed to the committee was how we were going to distribute the information to the institutions that the new PGPs are now out there. So I'm working on that now, and I'll give you an update on that by the time we have the next meeting.
And one of the things that Dr. Singh pointed out would be really encouraged would be to include the mapping document showing how the new principles of good practice align with the other standards, such as WCET, Quality Matters, SACS, CRAC. So we're hopeful that would be part of that conversation as well.
So I'd also, otherwise, I don't believe, Michelle, are you on the phone?
She didn't have the phone number.
Oh, okay. So
She was
didn't.
watching the stream.
Oh, okay. So we can wave at Michelle. She can read our lips.
In 20 seconds.
But I would like to ask that the minutes reflect the LTAC's thanks to Michelle Singh, now with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, for all of her work in kind of shepherding this through for the last couple of years, and also thanks to all of the members on this committee, both current and previous, that worked through updating the Principles of Good Practice document, and all of that work. It took the entire committee, and it did take us about, I think, 4 years to get it to this point. So I thank all of you for your work, and Michelle for her leadership. And even when she was, no longer on the committee, she stayed engaged and involved, and shepherded through. So we thank you for that. Any other coordinating board updates, Dr. Loftus?
That's it for the coordinating board.
So the next item on the agenda is item number 8, discussion of hybrid blended degree programs. This is something that I ask be included on the agenda based on some conversations we had at a previous meeting and some conversations I've had with some of you offline, just in the day-to-day work, kind of talking through some of the regulations surrounding hybrid degree programs, especially if we start talking about at the bachelor's level, where many of our institutions offer the entire core curriculum online, which can be up to the 50% of a degree, and then if a student takes 1 or 2 other classes in their major online, they've now taken more than 50% of their entire degree program online. So kind of talk through how some of the institutions are dealing with the hybrid delivery, but also this brought into kind of a conversation on online bachelor's programs and that. And so with that, I believe Dr. Lofters has some information to share with us, and then we can have a discussion. As I said, this kind of came up at my institution as we start looking at some of our bachelor's programs, because students are taking so much online now in the core, it's throwing full degree programs. And my read of the coordinating board rules and statute, it doesn't say 50% of major courses, it says 50% of the degree program. So 120-hour bachelor's degree, if students are taking 45, 50, 60 hours online, we're getting at the hybrid level. So Dr. Lofters.
This is really just short, high-level data as far as what we're seeing now. As you know, we have now the distance education portal, which actually works and does what it's supposed to do. So now we can tell real time. So this data is as of October 29th, is how many programs we have as far as in the different modes in the bachelor's degree program. So right now we have total bachelor's degree programs in the state. We have 1,925 programs. According to the, this is not distance ed, this is just total programs, bachelor's degrees. And the number of programs that are delivered online, 100%, we have 108. Number of programs delivered fully online, 126. And the subject of today's discussion is the ones that we have is according to the portal that are delivered hybrid blended is 140. To go over the definitions, once again, From 51 to 85 is hybrid blended, and that's percentage of the program that is online. Now, the way that the fully online is written a little bit different. Fully online says that you cannot have more than 15% on-campus attendance required. So from 85 to 100, really, is fully online. We really don't have a rule that has an actual definition of 100% but online, but it's, no campus attendance is required, and we're right now working on policy to fix that and change that up. And this tells you how many we have, and this is as of, like I said, the 29th. These are the zip codes that show the top 10 distance ed, and I'm sorry it's so small, I tried to get as big as I could. Can you see them all? Hopefully you can. This is the top 10 zip codes that shows, and by 4-digit zip, that shows the online programs that are being delivered in the state. So number 1, interdisciplinary studies, which was sort of surprising to me. I thought it would have been something else, but interdisciplinary studies was the number 1 program. And you can see, I also broke it down by delivery, category 100%, fully online, hybrid, and then the total. Criminal justice was 2nd, nursing 3rd, business administration, fourth, but then we have business general, with 5th with 2 of them. Psychology, liberal arts and sciences, marketing, computer information sciences, and sociology. And it shows you how they are being delivered by category. They're pretty comparable. I mean, they're not like one is way off from the other ones. For instance, like the second one, hybrid is 10 programs were being delivered hybrid in criminal justice, where you have 1,400% and 9 fully online. They're pretty close to each other. What we're also able to tell is from what I wanted to concentrate on is that we're looking at if an institution is, what I say is inadvertently sometimes going from a face-to-face program to a hybrid, because they just slip over that 50% threshold. And we can tell now with the portal from FY17, I can tell you which ones have increased in each mode from that time. Prior to that, you really can't tell. We consider that what we call here, and my colleague Emma Shane helped me with this, we consider that the initial upload period. And that means that's when we initially had all the institutions send us all these spreadsheets with all their different distance education programs. We compiled them, and once we had that list and we initially uploaded that to the system, we really can't tell when they happened prior to that, but we can tell that they were there. But from 17 going forward, we can tell when they actually happened. So if you had 100%, there were a total increase of 166 online programs since FY17. 47 were 100% online, 60 were fully, and 59 were hybrid blended. So once again, they're pretty comparable. I'm not sure if that addresses, it just tells you where we're going as far as the distance ed delivery is concerned, but how institutions actually address when they get the threshold, that's a different thing.
So I'd like to open it up to the committee, especially our, senior universities with 120-hour bachelor's degrees, and even, the community college colleagues as well. But how are you looking at hybrid blended at your campuses? Do you have institutional policies? Do you, is it we're looking at them when it comes up or anything like that? Does anybody have a process in place or thoughts?
So, Dr. Louder, just to clarify, part of your concern, which I appreciate, but is the focus of the conversation for those undergraduate programs for which, and this is not the correct word, but a first-time, full-time freshman would start on your campus and then move all the way through, as opposed to someone who would transfer, right? Because then there's no way of documenting, particularly if you're transferring and you're transferring 100% of your core curriculum into an undergraduate degree program. But so these are ones where, at least if you start as a full-time freshman, how do people account for the movement within that institution that is now offering much more of the gen ed and the core curriculum in a 100% or at least in some type of blended format that may be undercounted when you get to the major courses, correct?
Right. So yeah, for an entire bachelor's program, let's say 120 hours, how are institutions dealing with, if you offer the majority of the core online and, a couple of major classes online, students, first-time, full-time freshmen coming in with no hours, could hit that hybrid, level on coursework. My institution, we don't, as you said, there's no way to track the modality of transfer credit. It's typically not reported on a transcript or things like that. But it's what are we doing when, the student is taking the entire core online, or even if they're not, but they're taking, a number of their major courses online, and it's throwing them into that hybrid level.
And just so another wrinkle, do you care about the minor?
It could be, the minor as well. So if we look at the degree, even if the, and I think Dr. Loftus has said this before, if the institutional, what is the institution's intent? But I also think, even if our intent is not to offer degree online or hybrid, if we are providing the coursework to the students and there's that possibility, is there, an unintended intent there for students, because we are allowing them to make that option and determination. And I'm hoping my institution is not the only one dealing with this, and that others have had conversations regarding this.
So I'll speak to it at UNT. We have 5 baccalaureate programs that we list as 120 hours because there is a narrow pathway of gen ed courses that they could take, but that's not typically what we're seeing for these degrees. We're seeing them come in and take the major courses, and they are approved for online delivery. So it's a little less likely for us just because of the narrow path through gen ed, and that so many students today are coming in with a lot of the credits or bringing them in as transfer if they didn't get them through high school. And so I think less of a risk for us, and it's also something that really you don't have certainty around until you do a postmortem. A student has graduated, then you look, oh gosh, they got 51% of their courses online. I do have a question about how we, if we were to look at it postmortem, how we might consider the hours for a transfer student versus first time in college. So let's say in a 120-hour program, you have 20 hours they transfer in, and then 45 that are face-to-face at your institution, 55 that are online. So if you looked at just the ones you know about, you'd have 55% online, 45% face-to-face. It'd be an online program. But if you assume that you don't know about the modality of transfer, so you assume that they would be counted as face-to-face, then you are not over the 51% mark for distance education. So what numbers do we use if we were looking at it based on the modality of the courses we do know about? Do we only look at those and just not include transfer hours in those calculations? Or do we make some assumption about the transfer hours?
In my thought, I look at the degree program, so 120 hours. So if they transfer in, it's still a 120-hour degree program. So then the way I figure it, or I've started to at Tech, is that 120-hour, then we just look at those classes. So 55 hours online out of a 120-hour degree program, what percentage does that put the student at? It's kind of how I've been talking with our registrar about, and how we've had some conversations, because we don't know the modality of transfer credit and we can't control that. So we just figure that's, face-to-face, because we don't know any better.
Right.
So
So you make that assumption, and so your equation would be 55 hours of it are online out of 120 hours. We know which ones are face-to-face from us. We don't know about the other. Assumption is treat them as face-to-face. So it would fall under that threshold to be distance ed.
That's how we do it.
This is Pam from MSU. I don't really know that there's any other way we can do it, especially in a lot of our programs that lead to professional licensure, nursing, rad science, whatever. Most of those people are coming in with prior credit and lots of transfer credits from other schools.
I just want to clarify. I think when Dr. Lofter presents those numbers, statistics, is really from the program perspective, right?
Correct.
Not from student, because it's difficult to
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was thinking too. Because when we look at the programs that are inside the portal, we used the word once before, it was intentionality. They intentionally said that this program is going to be online, hybrid blended. But when you have, like you said, the transfer issue, you have no control over that at the.
Well, and I think the other issue is, I mean, if let's say a bachelor's in, I don't know, political science, the institution does not have the intent to offer that bachelor's in political science as an online or hybrid degree. However, that has the same core as, say, a bachelor's in psychology or sociology. The institution did have the intent to have the bachelor's in psychology, sociology, hybrid or online. But because the students are taking the same core classes, now the political science degree is a hybrid because of the core. Do you see what I'm saying? So the institutional intent isn't there for this degree, but because the core, is available online and it's the same as some of the online classes, that does the institution, which have to restrict, which, my registrar is going to come at me through the screen if she knew I was saying this. Do we have to restrict, certain courses based on majors, which will be, incredible headache in terms of scheduling? And then as students expect the ability to take some of these classes online because of work commitments, family commitments, or scheduling issues with other classes, And so that's I think what I'm struggling with. The institutional intent isn't really there, but it's happening because we intended to do it on some of these other degrees. Dr. Mott.
So, Dr. Lauder, my question would be, if we started today with the new baccalaureate degree program at your campus, would these questions come up? Because now you're thinking about it, and you're not just looking at the program content, which is specific to a major, for which a department might say, okay, well, I can account for my 36 to 45 units, and that's really what I'm defending, but you're trying to take the larger view now, because while a department might be responsible for the major of study within that degree program, you're looking at it from a point of view. So are there stop points along the way that you're just thinking, gosh, do we need to reframe our process?
So that's what's coming up at my campus. Our registrar's office has a report that they run on students that pulls the modality of coursework that the student is taking on our campus. And if that report flags a student for taking more online or distance than what that degree is approved for, the registrar contacts, my office to say, we've got X number of students in this degree that they've taken, more than 50%. What are we going to do? So they're trying to do it before the student graduates, and so it's a real-time thing. I think the other, question is the way the rule is written, it's degree program. So I read that as the entire program, not just program in a major. So and as Patrick said, some degrees have very specific core classes that there are certain classes you can't get online, but others, are more general in core. There are a lot of options that may get it. And this may not be, I mean, this isn't something I think we can figure out and decide, quickly. And it may not be a problem. I mean, if it's not a problem for other schools, then we'll just continue to wrestle with it. But I just thought if it was coming up, surely there's somebody else that's seeing this, even if the intent is not there. The potential is there. So we're still waiting on lunch, and so I want to try to get through as much of the scheduled agenda as possible before we make a decision on next steps. So I'm going to jump down from item 9, and we'll go down to item 13, discussion of future. Actually, no. Let's stop that. Let's go to item 9 because we have a number of new members on the committee. So as part of your packet, you those of you in the room, you have a single sheet of paper that starts with LTAC subcommittees and work groups. And so these are the different working groups that LTAC has. We typically break at lunch into our subcommittees and have subcommittee meetings, discuss items, and then bring it back for the full committee after lunch and reporting. So those of you that are new to the committee, we would ask that you sign up for a couple of groups. The PGP work group, because that's just me now, I think that one can sunset off. We don't need it anymore. We've approved the PGP and it's done. And then there are a couple of others that we could think through. So what I'd like to do is ask the current chairs of these groups to kind of give a brief overview of that work group or subcommittee so that the new members know what the charge is for that group, and then we can, individuals can look at signing up for it. So I'll start with Dr. Mock.
Thank you. So as the LTAC members would have experienced today at the meeting, the doctoral, distance education doctoral subcommittee receives in advance of the LTAC meeting the electronic copies of the full proposals that are coming forward for LTAC review. We have an opportunity to screen through. Our primary responsibility is to look at the modality of delivery. So we are not looking at the content per se or questioning the quality of how the program is designed. It is really focused on the modality of delivery. Does it make sense? Does it adhere to the newly instituted now principles of good practice? We do most of our discussion in a virtual format where the staff does provide us with the proposals probably a month in advance of the LTAC committee meeting, and we have a chance to deliberate online and provide feedback. I invite any of the other committee members if they have further. It's a fun group. It's relatively efficient. I've been on it for a while. I inherited a wonderful process from one of the members, Dr. Morgan, who's on the line. So thank you very much, Dr. Morgan, for setting up a process that it's easy to replicate year over year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a fun committee to be on, so I would recommend it for anyone looking for a committee that's active every single meeting.
Thank you. Patrick?
Yes, I chair the Learning Technology Survey Work Group. For the new members, this is a survey that you may have been involved in filling out for a request in the past several years. We've administrated this survey twice. It is an effort to gather information from institutions about the different type of technologies that they're using, best practices, policy around distance education and learning technology, and then to share that information back out, not just with the membership of this committee, but also statewide. And my colleague Mark Garcia at Collin College has done some incredible work taking this data and putting it in an online database engine that is fully searchable. We'd hoped maybe we could demo that today, but we probably will not have time. The results of the previous 2 surveys are available online. Is that correct as of today?
There will be by...
They're very close to being on the new site. You may or may not know Coordinating Board has done a major overhaul to their websites and are reorganizing a lot of stuff, so some things aren't where we expect them to be right now, but I'm sure they will be soon. Our next administration of this survey is planned for next spring into the summer, so that we will have results available for the following year for the legislative session, if that is at all helpful. In the meantime, we plan to make progress on providing a link from the Coordinating Board website to the searchable database that Mark has created. There are some things we have to do in order to do that, including have an email address somebody can contact about that site, and have a privacy statement about any information that we might collect through it. Those are Coordinating Board policies about sites that they link to, so we will address that. But that's the type of work that we're involved in. The survey itself exists in Qualtrics, and it's already designed and good to go. We will update it to reflect any new technologies that weren't being reported in the last survey in different categories.
Thank you, Patrick.
Can I, just to give you an update, there is the first report you can find on the THECB website. We have a thing called the Report Center, and the Report Center does have the 2015-16 survey, so you can see what it looks like. For the new members, you can see what it looks like.
Ken, I'm going to turn to Ken for the next one.
Yeah, as far as the definitions review work group, Josh Book was the chair of that. He's no longer on the committee, and we focused, if you know, to the best of my memory, looking at a kind of a student perspective of what these modalities mean, and we focused a lot on what does it mean to be online, an online degree, and we work toward, you know, a student perspective that when a student sees that it's an online degree, or an online course for that matter, that 85% means nothing to them. And so I think there was we had proposed to try to change the definitions so that online meant online, and not a difference between fully and 100%, which, but then looking further at what that change from the Coordinating Board out to schools would impact them in certain ways that they would define their degrees, and that would be a pretty disruptive thing. And as I remember, that's about where we left it, because we didn't proceed much past that because of the difficulty in overcoming that. And we see a need for a consistent definition, but then how do we implement that? And that's where it was left, I think.
Thank you, Ken.
And Elizabeth is on, and she may have some additional memories.
Right. And I believe the Department of Ed is proposing a new definition of distance education that has been previewed at a couple of different meetings and conferences that certain people are at. So there may be additional work for this work group on the distance ed definitions based on whatever the Department of Ed puts out. Our next work group was the inclusive access, and I'm going to call him Mark, since your name's first.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and say that a lot of the work that was done for this particular group was focusing around inclusive access. For those members who may or may not be familiar with this, what it implies is the accessibility for students to gain access to their textbooks essentially from day one. In a digital format in their courses that they're taking online, or in hybrid, or pretty much any way, shape, or form. Previously, LTAC had the textbook publishers come and present on this, along with members from, I believe it was Tarrant County, who had presented on it. And so what this group was focusing on was, are there ways as a state that Texas could approach inclusive access to provide some baseline options for institutions that would be hopeful of adopting this practice, and what William Stowe, who was working on a lot of this, had previously looked at was what is Ohio doing? Because Ohio does have essentially statewide inclusive access. And so we had been contacting various institutions from Ohio, discussing with them what they have, and there was a large document and information dump that did happen before Will left that's provided us with where we kind of were, but there's still a lot of work to be done here to determine from a statewide perspective how we could kind of address this, both funding-wise as well as platform-wise from a software perspective, and then publisher-wise in terms of the options that various institutions might have. So that's currently where we are with the Inclusive Access Work Group.
And I believe, Dr. Snyder, your campus does a lot of inclusive access.
Mike.
My apologies. I believe we started our pilot last spring, and we've been doing it through this last academic year. Can't give you a real report on where we're at as far as participation or anything like that, but yes, we have been doing it for about a year now.
The same thing for Tarrant. We started a couple of years ago, so pretty much, in terms of data collection and all that, and extension.
Correct. I believe when we had the first initial presentation on inclusive access, I believe it was Tarrant that made the initial presentation to the coordinating board.
I believe so, yeah.
We are also using inclusive access at Alvin Community College. We had a small pilot this summer, but we've used it with a lot more courses this fall, and plans are to use it significantly more in the spring as well.
Brief aside to this while we're all talking about, Patrick, do we have inclusive access on the roadmap for updated technology surveys? Because it might be a technological piece that we could include to find out if institutions are implementing it or not.
We have an OER
Okay.
on there, but we may tailor that. Right now. Yes. Yeah, but we will address it in the survey. We have a question currently, but it could be tailored so that it's not open-ended as it is now. We could put categories in it that'll help us better define the landscape for OER across our institutions.
And then the final work group that we have is the 50-mile radius work group. This one is one that we've had on and off for the last couple of years. It came out of some coordinating board rules to talk about the good neighbor notification and offering off-campus face-to-face classes and programs, and that we need to notify institutions within a 50-mile radius, and that rule was originally written when you could drive 50 miles in an hour. And so it's been on the books a while if you think about speed limits. But if you also think about our metropolitan areas in Texas, you can, very rarely will you be able to drive 50 miles in an hour in Dallas, Fort Worth, or in Houston or Austin. And so the thought there is to talk through kind of those rules. Does 50 miles still make sense? The intent of that rule, the original rule with the coordinating board, was to kind of limit the competition and limit the duplication of effort and allow the schools in that area to serve the students there. But then, as we've all grown and expanded, is this 50 miles still makes sense? So those are our different subcommittees and work groups. Really the only kind of standing subcommittee that we have is the distance education doctoral subcommittee. All of the others have been added and sometimes closed out depending on the workload of LTAC. But those of you that are new members, because we're not going to be able to do it today, what I'd ask you to do is after this meeting, after we adjourn, if you would either stop by and talk to Dr. Lofters on which committee or committees you would like to serve on, or email him sometime in the next 2 weeks or so that we can set that up. We would ask that you all serve on at least one of these work groups. so that we can continue to kind of work through these items. So jumping down, I'll again jump down to item number 13, which is the discussion of future agenda items and meeting dates. So Dr. Lofters, I believe our next meeting would need to be sometime in, you said February? Is that correct? Late January, early February?
Yes, February be our next meeting date. I'm looking right now to see if we have boardroom availability. Right, we'd like to have a month before the cause meeting. And just for the new members, the way we try to schedule our meetings is that a lot of times these proposals that come in front of us are new proposals, and they are going to the board for final approval. So they need to have an approval, a recommendation of approval from the LTAC regarding their distance ed delivery. So we try to do that 1 month before the cause meeting, so that therefore any kind of approvals or reviews of proposals need to be done then, so then they can move forward to the cause. So right now, I am looking in February, and we usually have the meetings on Fridays to try to keep staff away from their campuses as much, to have, not during the week. So we right now have
The time, not trying to keep us from our campuses, you're limiting the time away from.
limiting the time. There you go. Thank you. I'm looking now. We do have. I'm not sure what the holiday schedule is, but we have the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st open inside the boardroom. So we will need a boardroom or the Lone Star room. We usually like to go into the boardroom so that it can be televised and recorded for the public. And I'm not sure if anyone has any preference on those days.
I like.
Anything but the, oh yeah, that is sort of a special day, isn't it?
That's not really.
I like the 7th. I'd propose the 7th and see how others feel.
Does anyone have any?
Good.
7th? We'll check the calendar. If there's no, I'm looking at the board, and the boardroom is open that day. I'm just going to see if there's any, I don't know of any holiday on the 7th.
Summit is the 4th of the
We'll hold it. Okay, we'll hold it right now tentatively for February 7th, and I will give you a confirmation shortly. Oh, wait, you got it.
No, there's anybody that goes to the UPSIA Summit for Online Leadership.
For me.
Sorry, Vicki, was that you? Okay. No, I was just saying the UPSIA Summit for Online Leadership and Administration is February 4th through the 6th in New Orleans. And I'll be there, but I mean, as long as this is 7th, I could probably make that work.
Okay, well, we'll hold it right now for the boardroom, and then we'll give you confirmation when I give you the updates on the new meeting.
No, I did say, yes, it was me. I said that the 7th would work.
7th would work? Okay.
Okay, so let's tentatively pencil down February the 7th, and it would be from 10 to 2:30 here in the boardroom. And what are some future agenda items? Of course, we will have kind of our standing coordinating board update and our standing work group breakout sessions and work group reporting sessions. So those items.
Yes, sorry, I'm listening on the video because the phone was so quiet, so I'm behind.
Okay. So we'll have those standing items, and then I would imagine a doctoral proposal. Do you have any coming up, Dr. Lofters?
I don't know of one that's on my radar right now, but just give it a minute. We'll probably have one by that time.
Are there any other items that the committee would like to discuss at our next meeting?
I think if we were planning on doing the demonstration for the full LTAC on the database, Mark and Patrick, correct? So if we could put that on the agenda, I think that would be
We
really
could do
good.
that out of subcommittee work group, but we could use that time other way. So yes, if we could have that on, that'd be great. Thank you.
I think because then if it's recorded into the minutes and into the, available for people if they wanted to be
Absolutely.
able to see it online too, that would be terrific.
Possibly also the PGP, once it gets published, maybe how you're going to distribute
Okay.
that to campuses or letting them know it's available.
Okay. And as part of the coordinating board updates, we'll hear about the OER grant program. So at that time, based on your presentation, the
RFP should be out by then.
Oh, the brief and all that,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Other items of interest for the committee? Linda, were you raising your hand? Oh, okay. Okay, so we will keep those major items on the agenda. If you think of something between now and kind of the next few weeks or so, if you would feel free to email that to both Dr. Lofters, myself, and Patrick, so that we all have that as we start building the agenda for our next meeting, and we'll go ahead and pencil in, the February 7th meeting. I do see that lunch has arrived, we will go ahead and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn due to the water issue, so we can have lunch, and then those of us traveling can get on the road or maybe get on an earlier flight. So do I have a motion to adjourn today's LTAC committee meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn, and we will stand adjourned until February the 7th, unless that date ends up not working, and then Dr. Lofters will let us know.
I'll let you know.
Thank you all. Please enjoy lunch. Those of you watching, thank you for participating. I'm sorry for the abbreviated schedule, but we have to, due to the water issue, we have to adjourn the meeting early. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.